All right, this is Game On. It says it, man. Game On, and glad to have you with us, Russ. And before we, because I know I'm gonna talk for like a few minutes, and then I know I'm gonna lose control of this because you guys know each other so well that I'll be probably speaking again in about half an hour. So, but I want to tell the people listening to us what I think is one of the funniest story. And you know, I'm a comedian, and I think it still beats some of the stories I have with some of my friends, you know, in comedy clubs. But for the people who don't know, when we talked about having the podcast, Éric Gagné came up with the idea, called me, and said, "Hey, let's have a podcast. What do you think?" And it was, I think we should do it with Russell Martin. I said, "Man, it's a great idea. Why not, man? Same name. I can't say no." Yeah. And so we have a Zoom between the three of us. And like Eric's like, okay, you know, let's talk about the social side. You know, let's be different. You know, everybody's talking about like, you know, stats and this and that. And obviously, we don't have a choice but to like talk about it sometimes. But let's go with the social aspect of the game. Yeah, you're right. You know, let's be more about opinions and like, you know, and no crap, like no filter. Let's say what we think. And then the first thing Russ says, hey, if we do a podcast, can I say fuck? And I was like,
fuck yeah,
right, we're in business. Of course, a podcast. I'm not saying I just thought it was hilarious that it was your first question. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
Man, we're doing great. I'm a little pissed off at you because I want to know how did you take 20 strokes off your golf game in like 6 months?
Just a lot of reps, like calluses on my hands and stuff. It's just there's no secret to it. I mean, it's kind of like anything in life. You got to put the time into it. And it's not like I just magically got better quickly, and it was just the game came easy to me. I just practiced a lot because I have a lot of time because I don't have a job.
Okay.
So
you're not, you know, you're not in a locker room, right? So you don't have to give me like the standard answer that you know.
Hey, dude.
Okay, there's three letters: OCD. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah, no doubt, 100%. I just get obsessed. I get obsessed with wanting to get better, and you know, I just don't accept not being good at something. And I'm still not good yet, but I definitely got better, you know, in a short period of time. But that short period of time, I probably played as much golf as somebody that's played for 15, 20 years. You know what I mean? Like I've taken a lot of swings. Plus, I have pretty good feel for like what my body's doing while I'm swinging. You know, just from all the years of, you know, playing baseball and swinging. You know, you
obviously
you have a feel for what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And
talk about golf, man. I know we can talk about golf all night. That's why I love it. I'm glad you're moving here, buddy. That's awesome. Like, so when you stop playing baseball, you're bored, right?
Exactly.
You're bored now. You say you don't work. You got 3 beautiful kids. Where I was the Manny for a little bit. Amazing kids, by the way. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
So you're playing baseball your whole life. Now we're talking about golf. Why are you so good at golf? What do you think the difference? Like, you're a catcher, you run the game and everything else. Mentally, what's the like? What is it like, baseball and golf? What's the difference between the
similarities?
Two? Correlate.
I think mentally, I feel like golf is tougher. Just the fact that you take one swing, and it's not like in baseball where, let's say you get 2 strikeouts, you can get another at bat in the bottom of the ninth and hit a game-winning hit, and then you're the hero. In golf, you can be, you know, one bad swing from just completely ruining your round, you know, and then you know, it's definitely different in that sense. But I guess the biggest similarity I find in golf and baseball, it's more between like pitchers and their ability to kind of repeat their mechanics and repeat, whether they're throwing a fastball, a slider, a curveball, or whatever. You have to repeat that same delivery, that same mechanic. And I feel like that's why pitchers are good golfers, because they kind of have that kind of drilled into their mind. And it's the ability to repeat, you know, a mechanic over and over again. And that's what golf is just having, you know, like that one smoothness of the swing, the timing of it. And as a hitter, you know, I can swing something hard, and a lot of hitters can generate power, but, you know, mechanically speaking, you know, hitting's more about getting on time, and golf is more about mechanics and you know, repeating that same mechanic over and over again. So I don't know, they're similar, but they're different.
Yeah, it's very close. I mean, and the reason why pitchers are better than you guys, y'all, the rest of the non-athletes, it's because we pitch every 5 days. So
yeah, so you have 4 days to practice. Exactly. That's the advantage. It's like cheating on a final exam. That's what it is, man. What's the goal? Pro-am? I don't know. What's the goal of it behind this?
The goal? Man. I think, I mean, just I have so much respect for the guys who are pros and they've been doing it for a long time. There's definitely a gap between like even a good amateur and even like, you know, a pro who's not even at the PGA, who's at, you know, at the Latin America tour or Canadian tour. Those guys are really, really, really good. They can go low at any given time, you know, and if I play, you know, just under 80, I'm happy. So there's a gap there. You know what I mean? There's 64 and somebody that's happy to shoot under 80. There's, you know, it's a big difference.
I know as a catcher, when we talk about catching, you're a psychologist, basically. You got to talk to the pitchers and whatever, to throw them balls or whatever. When you go up to him, you got your own little spiel you're going to tell him. As a golfer, what would you tell yourself? You're like, all right, take your time, talk to yourself. What would be the conversation you have with yourself when you're like, hey, swing slower, think about this, think about what is your conversation? I know, because every single shot, we're thinking about something, and the mindset changes all the time, the tempo and all that. What would you tell yourself?
I mean, I'm good for like 1 or 2 bad shots in a row. After 2 bad shots, I'm the one that needs help. Like,
that's when the word "fuck" comes. It's pretty helpful, man. It's 100%, stress release, get your mind released. It's just,
and I have to like look around and like there's like elderly ladies and they're probably just shaking their heads like, look at this guy fucking swearing and shit. Anyways, but no, man, golf is golf is great, man. Love it.
Hey, let's talk about a bit of baseball, because I mean, obviously, what I just realized, we're pretty much modeling a guest for the golf podcast that I have here on La Poche Bleue. So before they steal them from us within a few seconds, man, you know what? Last week, Blue Jays Yankees. How did the rivalry between the Jays and the Yankees become more exciting? More, I don't know, than the one between the Red Sox and the Yanks. I mean, I honestly think Yanks Boston is now second to Toronto Yankees. I mean, there's a lot of hatred between those two teams, man. They just want to punch each other in the face.
It's a good question. I don't know.
It wasn't that bad when you were playing. It was still Boston, New York. But I mean, now
I feel like because the division is so good, there's just everybody's fighting. Everybody's fighting all the time. There's really no, like, everybody's playing above 500 baseball. So like everybody knows they're good. And there's whatever city you're going into, it's you know, it's going to be tough. And Toronto's like, it has like a young, exciting team. And they have guys like Alek Manoah who aren't afraid to, you know, strike a guy out and tell him to go sit down. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of attitude they have. And that kind of like, you know, and guys on the other side don't like that, you know, whether it's you know, whether you're playing for the Yankees or Boston or whatever, but you know, like they say, if you don't like it, play better, you know?
Yeah.
If you're not happy with the way the guy's fucking talking shit after he strikes you out, well, you know, mix in a hit or something. And then, you know, then you can just do whatever you want. Bat flip it, you know, 8 feet in the air.
It's a little bit like the Dodgers and Padres rivalry. Is this real? Like, is it the real rivalry? Well, I don't know if it's real. I know that the Padres want to beat the Dodgers all the time. I think the Yankees are the team to beat just because they're Yankees. Everybody hates the Yankees. It's just, you know, it's the way it is. Everybody's got to hate the Yankees. Boston Yankees, I think it's, you know, you got the big bad guys at Dynasty, and you got the old blue collar team. I think it's a little bit like that, but it's kind of cool to see the Blue Jays and it's kind of cool to see just any rivalries. I mean, we're a part of it against the Giants. That was pretty cool, and it's
but I mean,
really,
between the Yankees and Toronto, you feel like every game there might be a bench clearing brawl. I mean, you can sense the edge, man. You played for both teams. I saw you in Toronto, man, and those were really exciting years for the Blue Jays. I was there when you guys beat the Texas Rangers to be in the National League Finals. Man, I was just quite a bit. But and it's obviously two different, well, not cultures, but I mean, because I think the Blue Jays are now starting to learn to win. I mean, we did, you know, I said we. Oh my God, man, how chauvinistic. In the early '90s, you know, with the back-to-back World Series. But I mean, and of course we know the tradition of the Yankees. As a player, how would you compare the two cultures of the teams
between the Blue Jays
and the Yankees?
And the Yankees?
Yeah.
I mean, one, so like the Yankees have a rich history of winning. A ton of championships.
Yeah. And you're reminded every year of how many championships they won. As soon as you get to spring training, that's the first thing to remind you of.
One of the differences is just like the fan base. The fan base has this, like, they expect to win a championship every year, and honestly, it's so hard. And I'm not saying it was easier back in the day. Well, it probably was a little bit easier, but now there's just more parity in the league
and more teams, obviously. And
there's more teams, and the overall players are just better. Players that are coming up are more prepared than ever. The coaching's better, their training's better, they're eating better, the science is better, the data's better. You know what I mean? So there's a quick evolution and just how good players are. You didn't really see many good young players, or not even close to as many as we see now. And we're definitely seeing that nowadays.
That's funny because you sound like you retired 30 years ago, but it hasn't been that long. The league has changed that much between your last year of playing and today?
Oh my God, so much. I mean, it used to be like you were licking your chops if you were getting to the bullpen, because in the mid innings, because you probably had like an 88-mile-an-hour guy, maybe 88 to 92 with a little bit of sink and like maybe a slider to go with it. Now it's just everybody's throwing Petro and just like they know exactly what to work on. If something's not working right, they know exactly, what pitch gets them the most spin rate. So it's going to have like the nastiest, latest movement, or which pitch is kind of blending in with their fastball. So, they can tunnel pitches and stuff. And, man, it was tough to hit back then. And it looks like it's tougher to hit now, but guys are still finding a way, man. It's unbelievable.
Hey, Russ, I remember when I walked in with the Dodgers is dynasty, like you're talking about, and the Yankees. I mean, when you walk in that clubhouse, when I remember walking in, I had Dryford, I had Kevin Brown, all these big names making 15, 20 million back in the days was a lot of money. Now you're basically a bench player. But walking in that clubhouse, you got Jeters of the world, all these guys. How crazy was that? Just how surreal was it just to walk in? You're like, man, these guys are gods of baseball. I mean, cheater, you walk in, you're like, you don't want to say the wrong words to him. He's perfect.
The captain, man. The captain.
Yeah, I mean, how does it feel like? Just like, because I know he played in LA, but it's not. I don't think it's the same. I mean,
but I just want to add on to this too. Also, tell me that you were just a bit like awestruck when you saw Jeter, where there was like that pause of like, man.
The first time, for sure, walking in that clubhouse in spring training, and then you see a guy that was it 96 was kind of like the first time. In 96, I was probably in my first year of high school or whatever, right? So, I'll walk in and it's like, it's Derek Jeter. Like he's in commercials. He's been, I don't know how many championships he's won. It's like the guy's going to get the 3,000 hits and he's like he was like a big brother, right away. He
really?
was one of the cool dudes. Yeah. And he's as advertised, man. He's a great teammate. He's just consistent every day, like same attitude, same routine. Like a true professional, right?
But the great ones do that. They stick to the routines and try to improve it every day. They know what works and they just don't stop, and they try to be an example for the other guys. I'm sure it was pretty.
It sounds simple. It sounds super simple. I'll give you an example of something super remarkable. He swung the same bat, like the same model, throughout his whole career. Like, I don't know if you know how crazy that is. Like if you go through like a spell of, let's say, 6 games where you're not hitting well, like I'm changing that bat, man. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I'm grabbing somebody else's bat. I'm taking off the batting glove. Like I'm doing something different. And he would just never deviate. He just had this just mentality of like, it's not the bat. Like
obviously
I'm good, and I'm gonna, like, the way I've been doing it's working, it's gonna keep working. And he just had like this unbelievable trust and like the process. And that's why that's why he's so great.
And then you get to the Blue Jays and you get to play that role too, because you were like one of the leaders when you got to Toronto too, and that was great, man.
And Toronto, that was so like I went from Pittsburgh to Toronto, and it was kind of the same thing. Pittsburgh was a team that really wasn't winning for, I don't know, like almost 20 years. And
They still aren't. Let me reassure you.
They're not.
No, that's sad.
But it's kind of the same thing. It's like you show up and then your team either has talent, has what it takes to win, or, you know, it's not, the timing isn't right and guys need a couple more years to get seasoned. And it's like, but I've always been a pretty good judge of talent. And when I went to that clubhouse in Pittsburgh, I was like, man, we have a freaking really good team. Like our bullpen's amazing. Our starters are good enough. And then we had like this mix of like young, you know, a few veterans in there sprinkled in with some young talent, a lot of guys that came up together. So it was like that camaraderie, like in the clubhouse, like guys cared about each other and they really wanted to win.
So what was missing then?
And then I went to Toronto.
Russ.
It was kind of the same thing.
Russ.
Yeah.
It wasn't all these years. I mean, that's like the thing is when you see guys like that, like when you go to the Yankees, I've known Russ as a baby, a little kid. And Russ, we talked a little bit earlier with Carl. So, hey, what's the difference with confidence? And you can fake it, whatever. But I think, Russ, it's amazing what you've done from the beginning to now, I mean, not now, but the last couple of years when you played. You're a young buck. You get young kids trying to impress everybody. Now you're like, you became a leader. And what you've learned from these guys, like, how do you go in the Yankee clubhouse and then you're like, okay, you're not the big guy. You're just Russell Martin that's coming from wherever. And you have these guys are superstars, super athletes, super good, like guys are gods. And you go into Pittsburgh, and then how is like not going to Pittsburgh, but trying to lead these guys? Like, what do you tell these kids? Like, how do you, because I know what I've done to you. I know how to talk to you guys, but like, what is a leader? Because like going to the Yankees, they expect to win. You're walking in there, you're buying into that culture. But going to a team like this where you have to basically start over, you have to make them believe that they're good enough to win. So what's the difference? What do you talk to them? How do you teach these kids that?
I mean, I think you gotta be honest. You have to be real, right? And you have to believe. Like, you can't fake, like, oh man, I believe in you, and I think you're like, if I don't think somebody's good, I'm not gonna tell them. You know what I mean? Right?
But you're not gonna tell them they suck either, I guess. You know?
No, but I've always been like optimistic, and I've always been, you know, look at the positive and try and find something positive somewhere. And I feel like you can always do that. You know, like you can always find a positive. You know, but luckily, like it's just the timing of it was I went into spring training and I really wasn't sure I was getting into. You know, I know the history, you know, of the Pirates going into it. It wasn't looking good. But I remember there were all these what do they call them? They call them the experts. Like all the experts were saying that they, you know, we're gonna finish last and blah 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 blah. And I just remember saying something. I was like, you know, like if all the experts already know, like why are we even going to play this season? You know what I mean? Like they don't know. They don't know. You know what I mean? And coming from the Yankees, and I remember there was it was Melanson, and he was in the bullpen and he had like 4 or 5 pitches. He was working on his changeup, and his changeup's ass. It's not good. It's not a good pitch. It's not a weapon, right? And he's throwing his bullpen. He's not throwing good changeups. And like, I get up from the crouch and I'm walking towards him. He's like, Russ, get back there. He's like, get back over there. I'm like, dude, like, hold on. I just want to say something to you. Because he was throwing these cutters, and he had late action cutter on his fastball. And it reminded me of Mariano Rivera's cutter. So I went
That's quite the comparison, honestly. That's
It is. He doesn't have the same command. But the action, the late action, it was similar. And I told him, and I was like, dude, you need to like just forget about the fucking changeup, man. And he's like, trust me, you have late action like Mariano on his cutter. Plus, he had a really snappy curveball. So like the combination of like that nice little fastball with a little cut and then the snappy curveball, like those were his 2 weapons. And I kind of just helped him like understand, like, you know, use your weapons. Like, you know, like if you're I don't know, if you're a UFC guy and you're a wrestler and like, and you're fighting a guy that's a stand-up guy, like, why are you standing up the whole time? Take him down. You know, it's like, it seems simple, right? But that was my job. It was to kind of like figure out what somebody was really good at, what their strengths were, and then it's like that chess match with the hitters of, you know, are we attacking this guy? Are we staying away from him? Like, you know, who's on deck? And then it's just you play that cat and mouse chess match, you know, throughout the whole game and throughout the whole season. But guys need to know what they're good at, and they need to know what their strengths are, and sometimes they don't even know.
Amen. That's the hard part, I think, right now with the game going on, with the data analytics, everything going on. I think they've lost the feel. And I think what you've done best, that biggest difference I've seen from Russ, a baby, and Russ the last couple of years is just a grown up about how, you know, people trusted you, because the way you talk to them, but the way you approach it now, if you're a young catcher now, you have all that analytics and everything else. How would you approach this? Like the way you talk, would it change anything, or no? Just go trust, feel, relationship, understanding of someone's, you know, psyche, someone's stuff, and understanding if they do trust it or not. Because it like you said, it is a cat and mouse game. It's really all mental. I'm going out there. I think I got the best curveball. My curveball was terrible. But then how do you tell them, hey, it's not terrible, it's just really bad if you throw it too much? And like, how would it change?
It's not terrible, it just sucks.
But certain counts, and I think the data helps with that. But now, would you change a little bit your approach and how, you know, pitchers meeting, catchers meeting? How would you do that with all that information we have now?
Well, it's hard to put myself in the position of being, if I was a young kid now and I had all this information and all this data, I would for sure have a different outlook on how the game is. But because I didn't come up with all that information, I was able to, the stuff that didn't make any sense for me in game, like game time, because it's a game of adjustments. And like, you can have a plan and, well, guess what? Like, apparently this guy doesn't hit sliders well, but, you know, every single slider is going in the dirt, or it's not a non-competitive pitch. It's like, well, you know, it's like beating your head against a wall. After a while, it's like, maybe you shouldn't, you know, slam your head against the wall. Maybe we should try to do something different, you know, like,
I love it.
A different strategy. So it's just like, you can have a plan, and you can, on paper, it can be like, we got to throw this guy fastballs up and in and sliders down and away. But to break the game down as simply as possible, it would always, for me, would be like, let's get strike one, however we can, as quick as possible. And then from then, you have count leverage, and then you keep attacking. You know, you keep attacking, because what happens sometimes, like, oh, this guy does not get up and in, and he chases away. Well, any hitter 2-0 is going to be a lot more dangerous than if he's 1-1 or 0-2. And that's the game of baseball. Like, you can have all this data all you want, but like, oh, this guy doesn't hit the ball up, and you try to get strike one up in the zone, and it's a tough pitch to locate up in the zone, strike one. Now you're 1-0. It's like, well, I don't like that. I'd rather you just challenge somebody right off the bat, you know, and take your chances, and then have count leverage. You know what I mean? And if not, then the guy gets a base hit or whatnot, then you get to the next guy, you know, and you know, it's just, you know, it takes
simple.
3 hits.
Keep it simple, stupid, right? Keep it simple. How do you get outs, and get outs early? That's it. Fast. Let's go.
And what helped me have that kind of like that perspective was catching Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
He would go over a lineup. It would take him 3-4 minutes. Super simple, like mind-blowing simpleness and how we're going about it. But granted, like, this guy's another guy who had supreme command. And I just think that's another thing that we don't talk about as much, is the importance of locating pitches. Like, most of the best pitchers in the game really locate well, and they don't give many like middle pitches to feast on. They really just don't, you know, especially not in good counts. They rather walk you than just give in and throw like a 3-1 heater right down the middle, you know?
But everything's about speed nowadays. The only thing you hear about is how fast this guy throws and how fast the next guy coming up is going to throw also. And like, now, wow, triple digits. Oh my God, 102. I mean, Hunter in Cincinnati is a good example. He's still young. I think he's only 26, you know? I mean, he throws that heater, but, you know, you'll watch the stats at the end of the game, and more often than not, you know, he's got not almost as much, but, you know, he'll have 6 strikeouts but 4 walks, you know? So, he finds a way to put himself in trouble. And like you said, like a Greg Maddux just becomes like an artist.
Yeah. It's a painter. It's beautiful to watch. It's an art. Like there's an art to catching because you want to be in sync with the pitcher and everything else. With Greg Maddux, it's beautiful to watch. And Russ, I don't know if we're at the same time together in LA, but it's amazing to watch these guys. Like you said, paint. They're artists. They're going out there and they're controlling the counts. They're controlling the hitter. And I think for the way Russell managed, that's what to manage the game as a catcher. That's kind of where the secret sauce is. I mean, it's not so much about making the right pitch at the right time. It's about, convincing yourself it's the right pitch at that time. And I think that's the commitment you have.
I love it.
But the commitment, you have to have a commitment. It's sometimes you talk about if you think you're throwing the right pitch and you're committed to that pitch, I think it makes a huge difference. I think that's why Russell was so good. He's learned. I mean, it didn't come overnight. He was a third baseman, but the way he called the games, he really went to those strengths. And that's what the biggest thing I've seen. You calling pitches. It was because as a pitcher, I see that no one sees that. No one understands when it comes, to prepare for not just for a game, prepare for a pitcher. I mean, understanding where the pitcher goes, and you're amazing. You're amazing at calling the games, the way you learn, and people want to pitch to you, and that's why you get so much good friendship as pitchers. All your guys are the guys that you caught.
Jeez, man, you're gonna make me cry. It's so beautiful, man.
No, but
that's true.
No, but at the end of the day, like you're catching and if a pitcher is pitching to his catcher and they know that guy wants to win as much as them, they're going to be okay. Even if they're not best friends off the field or whatever, it's like if they can trust that guy and they know that he wants to compete and he wants to win as much as them, they're going to be fine. But if you don't have that, that's a problem.
But obviously you can't have that with everybody. That's human nature. I mean, you can't just, every guy that threw to you couldn't be, wasn't always on your Christmas list, I'm sure, So you got to find a way to to communicate and put your differences behind and just,
For sure. But they know that we both want to win. And that's all that matters. When you're competing, we're not,
But how do you deal with someone who shakes you off more often than not?
And that's another thing. I never really took it. I never took it personal, because I pitch too, and sometimes I wish there's guys that didn't shake me off, there were those guys.
You can play the home run.
Remember that one, buddy. Remember that one. Remember Russ knows he's got a 0 ERA, right? You have no ERA at all. Right?
Yeah, zero. Lowest in the history of the game. Nobody has a lower ERA than I do.
Hall of Fame just for that. I was watching the game recently between the Tigers and I forgot who, which is amazing. And the whole feud was between it was Austin Edges was catching for the other team. People watching, please. Why am I having the blank? I had a blank also on the French side. Austin Edges. He's not with San Diego anymore. He was playing now. He's
Cleveland.
Thank you. All right, so it's Cleveland, Detroit. And Oss was catching for Detroit. He's just having a go at the umpire because he feels he doesn't have the same strike zone as Edges. I mean, we can see the whole thing, and then they go into pitch frame, and that's the thing I hear the most whenever I read about the advanced stats and stuff. And so I'm gonna play dumb. I don't have to play too hard, but What is the secret? What is exactly, pitch framing? I mean, the umpire is not an idiot. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't matter how you grab it. I mean, really? Does it?
It makes a difference.
I love the smirk. I love the smirk. So enlighten
Don't
me.
answer that yet. Don't answer that yet. Do you think pitch framing is overrated?
No.
Really? You don't think it's for me, I was going to go into the robot umpire thing. You don't think that's the umpire, it's because the robot umpire, me, it's the relationship you got with the umpires would give you those edges, right? You would give you the benefit of the doubt. That's why I think if you're going full circle on that, that's why I'm thinking about robot umpires. I'm I don't know, because for me, the catcher's a relationship with the umpires is respect.
Hard to be friends with a robot, obviously.
Throw him off. It's a little harder.
That's such a for me, that one's tricky because I think it's the art of catching is being able to receive the ball and present it to the umpire and making those pitches that are on the edges, making them look like strikes.
How do you do it? Just explain it to me. Just the way you position yourself. Just because obviously, if you catch the ball and you just move your gloves, like I said, the guy behind you is not an idiot. You know,
Right.
so once again, we're talking about the art of pitching. The art of catching is really just like pulling off the magic trick.
It's kind of like sleight of hand, right? It's like, you know, there's just like there's a timing of catching a pitch. And if it pitches, like if there's let's say you take a slider and there's a righty at the plate and it's a righty on the mound and the slider is working its way outside the zone. Well, your job as a catcher is to go get it out a little bit out in front and try to bring it back before it breaks too far out in front. And some guys catch the ball and they kind of take it with them and then they bring it back. And that looks like a ball every time. But if you can catch it as you're bringing it up all in one motion, that makes it look more like a strike.
Wow.
It's super simple.
Who taught you to do that? Who was your best teacher for that?
So John Debus was
Oh wow.
way back. You remember John Debus, right?
Oh, of course.
We'd be in instructional league, and that's like after the minor league season. There's a baseball camp, and if you're a prospect, you get invited, and it happens like in October or whatever. And then every team has instructional league, and my guy was John Debus, and Travis Barbie was there as well. But John Debus, we'd have like inter squads, so it's just like games against our own teammates or whatnot. And they'd set like that net that they put behind or in front of second base when we're having batting practice, and I would be sitting behind the catcher, sitting with John Debus next to me, and there would be a guy on the mound pitching, and then we'd have a game, and we would be talking about, hey, what pitch would you call here, or what would you do here, and that's kind of how I got into catching was just sitting behind the screen and just talking the game of baseball pitch by pitch. And then he would talk about receiving, and he would talk a lot about the low pitch, because back in the day it was like a lot of sinker, like keeping the ball down was at a premium. And there was a lot of guys who threw sinkers, and if you could get that pitch down in the zone for them, then they were really, really tough to hit, like the Derek Lowe's and who was the guy in Arizona?
Brandon Webb, yeah.
TV, like all those guys were sinker guys, and if they could get that low pitch, you were going to have a hard time, lifting up the ball. And now obviously like it's changed with, the way the guys swing, and, they're trying to everybody's trying to launch the ball in the air, and the game's changed in that matter. But the low pitch was super important. That was like one of the first things that I learned catching, was trying to catch the low pitch and making it look like a strike.
And the touchy thing is like, if you're trying to take the ump for a fool by overplaying it, I mean, yeah, that's also part of the game, because the Gags was talking about having robot umpires, which would be the worst, because I think also part of the charm of baseball is the human side of it. So as a catcher, to stay on the ump's good side, if you piss him off once, I'm sure you've pissed off umps when you said, God, that's gonna be a long fucking day.
I mean, there's umps that you never really think they're wrong, and I had a hard time with those guys. And then there's guys who are human, and they know they mess up, and they'll ask like, hey, can you go take a look at that for me? And so they know.
Would they tell you? Would they tell you right away, or would they tell you like between innings or whatever? Because as a pitcher, I want to know right now: did you mess up? Meg, you owe me one. You know what I mean? Like, would they tell you right away?
Do they say out loud, "I owe you one"? Have you ever?
They would never say that.
Not out loud.
I don't
know. I'm just asking.
They're trying to make the right call, and I always felt like there should be kind of like that. Like if I make another pitch that's close, like you should give it to me. Like I've always thought that should be a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys did it like non-consciously, maybe it was like subconscious, but I think what they try to make the right call every time, and it's just it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. Just like it's tough to make the right call if the catcher doesn't catch it properly, and it's as tough as if he catches it really well. Like it's tricky. It's guys are throwing hard now, and the ball's moving, and it's that those umpires aren't 25 years old either. Sometimes they're getting a little older.
A guy like Joe West, how was he? Did you have a good relationship with him? Because he's a trip. I played golf with him. He was playing golf with cowboy boots and cleats on, buddy. That's amazing.
No way.
Yeah,
man, if I play golf with you guys, that's how I want to be dressed, man.
Gosh.
I want cowboy boots with cleats on them.
Go West,
and you couldn't get anything by him. He was mean too. He's just I never had a relationship with any umpires, but I wonder what was your relationship with this guy?
I think Joe West thought people went to the baseball game to watch him umpire.
Really?
Yeah. When he put on a show, there would At every game like that I seen Joe West, at one point he's calling time and he's like looking at a baseball or like he's doing something and he's like, but he kind of had that persona, you know, and he you know, if you look up umpire in the dictionary, Joe West would probably have a picture
he would challenge you to show him up. I mean, he really would. He wouldn't make a call just knowing, hey, that's borderline. I'm not going to get to you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? If you show emotion, he'll throw you out. I mean, he was looking for that.
He was.
I guess after 45 years.
Oh yeah, he's a straight cowboy. We know what we should do. I think he has a CD. He has like a.
Yeah,
he has a
no way.
Yes. He plays a lot of pro-am golf too. I mean, he's actually a good dude. It's just like we hate him because he calls balls all the time. I don't like it. I want strikes all the time, but he's actually a great guy. I mean, he's an interesting character to say the least. But you need those guys. I mean, you need those guys part of the game. That's why I like the robot umpire. And I think the pitch framing. I don't think it's overrated, but I think that a good artist, a good receiver, like you said, a receiver is the best thing. You're not catching the ball. You're receiving. You're presenting into the umpire, and basically you angle yourself a certain way for you to show him like, hey, give him a little view of the ball, and that's I think it's pretty insane. But yeah, they need to be.
I'm thinking of the fan perspective. Let's just say from here on out we have electronic strike zones. What happens to like the fans having an opinion of the pitch?
They're gonna boo. They're gonna boo robots anyway. They're gonna find a way. But I know what you mean. It's like, I know, but yeah,
you're gonna boo the like.
But you know the worst part is what they want to do is like they want to use the robot umpire, but keep the real umpires on the field. So now the umps are becoming Muppets. How insulting is that, man?
I don't disagree with using the technology, but just give the players, like let's say the catcher and the hitter, they can just ask, okay, I got two, I don't know, I got 2 or 3 games. I can ask, is that good or not? If you're not, you lose it, just like a replay, but just let the players do that. Exactly. Just all the replay should be done by the players, no managers. It should be the guy that does the defensive play or the defensive play and let them ask for a replay. The guy that's in the first inning thinks he got a double, thinks he's safe. He goes all crazy. He's out by a mile. He doesn't know that. Let them call it, and then you can have some good players. I think you can use the technology in the right way and let the players kind of almost like police it.
Yeah, but you know what? Human error is going to be part of life. That's what I say.
Exactly.
So and that's part of the charm of the game. I mean, you don't want crucial calls. Like I forgot the name of the umpire who. Do you remember the pitcher for the Tigers? He didn't play for that long, but he had like a perfect game going on. Exactly.
Jim Joyce.
Exactly, Jim Joyce. Yeah. And see, we remember the ump. We don't remember the pitcher. Do you remember the pitcher?
Galarraga.
Galarraga, yeah.
Galarraga, is it?
Not the big cat, Galarraga, yeah.
See, in that case, going to replay for something that was obviously like, one of the biggest mistakes ever. I mean, poor ump. The next day we saw him crying and stuff, and just I can see, but those close calls sometimes
we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't be talking about it now. So it's like it's kind of reversed the whole thing. Like you're making a point for not to be in it, I think, because you wouldn't be talking about it. And even Galarraga, the guy, I think as a player, you understand they all try their best. I mean, there is some showboating on all aspects. A guy that hit a home run, he's never had a home run, he showboats. Same thing on umpires. They're all human beings. They're all like. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't change that just because of that one. I get it. You want to get it right, but there's a cost and there's a storytelling part that you don't have.
Your opinion, Russell. You have to make a decision now. Umps or humans? I mean, robots or humans? If you had to choose.
I like the umpires. I actually miss the managers running out to argue at first base about a call. Like I miss that stuff. Now it's just like. It's like, hold on a second. Let's let our video guy review.
I don't like it.
Okay, let's go. Let's keep it going. Oh man, I just love like a good that's like 3 freaking times you've missed a call. Like you know what I mean? Like you're terrible. Like and then you get your team fired up, and then I don't know. I kind of missed. I'm old school like that, but I like the challenges. Challenge is good, but robots. It could be bad. Like it means that the catcher, you don't need to receive anymore as a catcher. Like the game could be tough. There's nothing that I can't stand more than watching a game and watching a guy who's not receiving properly. It just, I turn the channel. I can't even.
Really? That's your horror movie.
I can't. But like we talked about Hedges, he's one of the best. Like when he's catching, it's fun to watch. Like he makes everything look like a strike. So
I'm gonna watch it more carefully next time for sure, man. Hey, before we let you go, we don't know.
And if they get rid of that, the catchers, there are going to be no more managers in the big leagues. I mean, the best managers are catchers, so you're going to get rid of that. You're going to have no more managers. It's going to be hard. His managers they're all catchers, so I think he can't do that. They can't do it.
Yeah, but I was gonna say before we let you go, the okay, now we know Russ the golfer. God, man, I wish we had like another hour. You know you're coming back to the show, so anyway. And of course. And but
I'll crash the party, even if I'm not.
Oh,
invited.
man, I love it. Exactly. Like that manager coming, out of the dugout towards the first base, man. Surprise us like that.
You're the unofficial third host.
Exactly. When are we going to see...
You didn't know that. Now you know.
No, you know. We're announcing it to you right now. When are we going to see Russ Martin, the baseball coach?
Ooh, good question.
Because your passion of the game is transparent. Everything you've said to me, I've just swallowed. Like I'm not even a player, and I just want to go on the field and play and apply what you just taught me. And I'm 53 years old. I mean, you've got that in you. It's gonna come out at some point in your life for sure.
Probably like in a couple of years. The thing is, you got to stay involved because it's changing so quickly. Like even myself, like. I'd have to go back and spend like a couple months and see what's new and like what data they're using and all that kind of stuff. But I definitely feel like I've acquired a lot of knowledge over the years, and I could definitely transfer that down to the next generation. But for now, it's Dad Russ at home with the 3 young daughters and probably like going to be at home for the next few years. But after they grow up a little bit and they start getting a little busier, it's and the golf game starts to like kind of just plateau.
Yeah, when you get tired of playing 70.
Right. When I get tired of playing 70 and I can't play better.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait for that day.
But take your time anyway. You got 3 daughters, man. So as of by experience, I can tell. At one point, the kids will actually just ask you to leave the house. So that's when you'll be free to go coaching. It's like, hey Ross, it was so great talking to you. We'll speak again for sure. Man, happy golfing, happy neighboring with Mr. Gagné, and we'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm waiting for your move. I'm ready for your move.
When am I moving?
Dude, I'll be sitting right next to you. Yeah, you need to make a spot for me over there where you're at.
I got a chair right here. You don't see it, but there's a chair right here.
I can confirm that. I was at his house a couple of weeks ago. He's actually shining it's kind of a shrine. It's a Russ shrine. Every day, it's like a genie bottle. He's like he rubs it open. Your ass is going to appear on the chair. So, take care, Russ. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, boy. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
See you, bud.
Alrighty.
Ciao, man.